Welcome to Resilient Minds, where we speak about resilience and planting the seeds that young people need to grow. We are in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina at the SCAPC conference, and who do I have the pleasure to be sitting with right now?
My name is Erica Battle, and I am the founder of Life Changes in Progress Education Consulting.
Before your title, right, who are you as a leader to the core?
Who am I as a leader? That is an amazing question. I've never thought about that because, in the traditional sense of the word leader, inside of a school system, I've never held that title as school principal or in the district personnel. But I was a teacher, I was an instructional coach, and I was a director. And as a leader, I want to be able to inspire those that are working with me, whether it was a student or other teachers, that they can achieve anything that they put their mind to, and that failure is part of the process. And I think when we think about achievement and leaders training others to be leaders, when we think about achievement, we really think about here's the goal, I'm going to achieve the goal, versus here's the goal, I may fail along the way, but ultimately I can accomplish that goal. That was a great question.
Thank you. You know, we lining them up. What originally pulled you into education?
Honestly, I lost a job. So education was a second career. I worked in public relations, and the company I was working with closed down. And when they closed down, I still had bills to pay. Okay. And so the path of least resistance was becoming a substitute teacher. And I had no intentions of staying in education. It was truly just a holding place for me until I found my next public relations job. And I fell in love with a group of seventh graders that worked my nerves. I was like their sixth substitute teacher. So their mission in life, I tell them, was to get rid of any other substitute teacher that came into their classroom. Like that was their mission.
Right.
Their whole goal this week, oh, we get somebody new, we're going to get rid of them. And then I wound up staying, and I stayed for a whole week. And then that Monday came, and when they walked in the classroom, they were like, you came back? Like, what? So one thing led to another. The principal asked me to stay for the year because she couldn't even find a teacher for that group of students. I wound up staying, and 21 years later, here I am. I founded an education consulting company that supports teachers and leaders in building their capacity so they can uh, help students reach their highest potential.
I love it. That's amazing. You're doing great work. So look, when you hear the word resilience, what does it actually look like in students? Not in theory, but in real life.
It looks like students being okay with failure and being able to bounce back after failure. And I missed the keynote this morning, and I'm make some assumptions based off of what people were saying as they were going past her. Is you can do hard things, and so when I think about resilience, and it when it comes to students, we don't teach them that they can do hard things. We don't allow them to fail without giving them the strategies to be successful after the failure. And so when it comes to students, they feel as if they have to get it right the very first time. And I think some of that is because in schools we praise the right answer versus praising the process to get to the right answer. And that might require students to erase, mark out, start over to get to that answer. But a lot of times we praise the ending and not the process that it took to get there.
That was an amazing answer. Listen, you getting it to me. What do adults often get wrong about young people and how they handle stress?
In my work, I talk a lot about trauma. And one of the things that I feel just sometimes looking out on the outside looking in is we get it wrong that kids, number one, don't want to learn and they don't want to achieve. We take outside behaviors and attach that to the kid. Oh, you don't want to do that. Oh, you don't want to do that. When a lot of times our students are fighting battles that we have no idea about, and their behaviors can sometimes be that escapism to get away from the silent battles that they are fighting. And they're looking for someone to get past the behavior to see them for who they are. And most of our students want to be successful. I can't say all because I have run into some students who really are apathetic about their lives. But for the most part, students want to be successful. They want to learn. They want to go through that process until they are not, until they have been told so many times what they can't and won't be.
We gotta definitely, guide them in the right way, but be knowledgeable about what's actually going on with them. We just can't assume. In our community, you know what assuming does, right? What's the hardest part about leading students and staff right now that people outside of education don't see?
Honestly, education is hard because there is a lot of demands placed on everyone. And as a consultant, I work with school leaders, I work with teachers, sometimes I work with district leaders. And I get the opportunity to work with students, and everybody is under some type of pressure or stress, right? And so when it comes to the school leaders I work with, it's helping them navigate the pressures that's put on them by district personnel while still doing what's right and needed for their building. For teachers, it's helping them navigate the pressure that is put on them by their principal, who may not necessarily know what's right for the students inside of that classroom. I think principals mean well, but teachers are with their kids every day. And the principal may pop in and out, whereas I'm with them and I thank you for your feedback, but I don't think that's the most appropriate thing for my student. As leaders, we have to learn to trust teachers and build their capacity to be able to address what is needed inside of that classroom. And for students, it is helping them understand that they are seen, that they are valued, that, we hear them, because a lot of times they don't feel seen, they don't feel valued, they don't feel heard, and it manifests in their behavior. And a lot of times it's not necessarily positive.
That is the truth, for sure. So, was there a moment in your leadership journey that changed how you view mental health or resilience?
Actually, it's interesting. So I didn't necessarily have a great experience as a student. Education for me took a negative turn when I was in middle school, just because of some personal issues that I was actually experiencing, and I didn't know how to express what was going on. And I had a principal in the eighth grade really expressed to me that she was going to make that year hard for me, just because in her mind I was just a disrespectful adolescent going through puberty, right? And so I was like, oh, is that what you're going to do? Okay, I'm going to help you. All right, so let's fast forward. Didn't have a great experience in high school either. And then when I became a teacher, I encountered students that were experiencing hardships in their lives and really just didn't know how to express it. And at this time, I recognize the behaviors. Still can't name it, but I recognize it. And later on in my educational journey, when I started doing this type of work, my work focused on trauma informed practices, building school culture, and the social emotional wellness of adolescents. Well, all of that work kind of was birthed from a book that I wrote titled Who Are You? A Guide to Help Adolescents Navigate Through the Social and Emotional Issues of Life. When I started doing that research for that book and the research that to deliver these trainings, I realized that ding, 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 the behaviors that we see manifest are behaviors of kids who have experienced some type of trauma, whether it was a prolonged trauma, whether it was complex trauma, whether it's one traumatic event. I realized that, hey, we're approaching our kids wrong. Yeah. We're labeling them versus getting to the heart of the matter and the foundation. And so everything I do now leads from the heart, because I call it heart work. I can't teach you if you have things going on that block you from even allowing you to hear me. But if I can get to the heart of the matter, the root cause, then we can get some traction and we can get some things going. My mindset did not shift until I really started doing the research and thinking back to the experiences that not only my students had, but I had. It helped me realize, like, girl, you were experiencing some trauma and didn't know how to express that. And so that is when some things changed for me.
I interviewed a couple people earlier, and it's like, y'all just be in my head. Yeah. I mean, y'all say what I be thinking, right? Y'all say the things that I've, noticed and addressed. And I really appreciate the work that you do and the knowledge that you're dropping because, we need to hear it, right? We need to hear it from somebody that walked that walk and understands that because, I mean, outside of that, it's just the blind leading the blind.
Teachers be joking like, oh my gosh, I'm a counselor, I'm a this, I'm a that, I'm a that. You are. When you step into this classroom with 25 kids with 25 different issues, you kind of are a parent a little bit because you're going to be with them all day. Yeah, you are going to have to be a counselor because you're going to, especially when we get to middle and high school, help them navigate through life. I ended my career with high school students, and one thing about me, I didn't teach elementary because I'm not doing all of that. No, we talking like it is. That, I would have sophomore boys come to me and be like, Miss Battle, I'm going to play in the NBA and I'm going to do this. And since I was in administration, I could pull up their data and say, see, you made a 13 on the practice ACT. And right now your GPA is 1.89. That's not what you're doing. I said, so I'm not even finna feed into that dream because that's what that is right now, a dream, okay? So now what I need you to do is think about real life. Let's think about real life. And I said, because, I would tell them because, some of those things that you do right now we send you home to your parents. At 18, they send you to jail. Okay, do you not understand that you're 2 years away from adulthood in real life? And I don't think we are honest enough with our students. And as teachers, you are a counselor. Yeah, because you know what? There are things that kids will learn from you that they'll never get from home. I still have students who are grown adults that call me today for advice, for support, to help find a job. So I laugh because I have adult children and I'm like, parenting never stops, but the impact of a good teacher never leaves. So we all the things. Yes. We all the things. And until we really get to the heart of the matter and stop just approaching teaching as another job that I do from 8 to 4, because these are my contract hours, and then we'll see a shift in students because students know how you feel about them. Right. Okay.
To your point, a lot of teachers are burnt out. Teachers are burnt out, they're overwhelmed. Yeah. Right? So even with those statements is literally one of the reasons why Adversity University even exists, even the program that we have, because being able to provide, professional development and take them through a process of not only learning a framework and a curriculum to deliver to the students with fidelity, but you're actually working through that framework and that process to fully understand the framework and the process and how it makes you feel. Yeah. Right? Because then you'll have a great understanding of how to make those young people feel. Secondly, it's taking away the overwhelm that you feel because it also comes with online courses. I listen when I work with these schools. I collect that data and I go back and I refine what we have. And one of the things that we added the online courses so that it can be a self-paced type of an opportunity that the leadership can just press play, guide them through it, then have those discussions to be able to go through it. Not only that, the courses have 3-question quizzes that ensure that those students are retaining that information. Yeah. It's one thing to go through the process, because it's mandated, you have to. Yeah. But when you're doing the self-work, you're starting from self-awareness and you ending with leadership. Yeah. So we're building leaders and we're teaching them how to cope. We're teaching them how to manage their emotions and manage conflict and interact with other people. We're teaching them all these things that will never go away. Yeah. So you said the impact of a teacher will last. That's the point. Yeah. That's the point. So good or bad? Good or bad. No, you're right. You're right. What actually helps students build resilience beyond assemblies and slogans?
Number one, acknowledging the failure. and not making it feel as if it's taboo to fail, but a natural process of success. When you think of people like Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, who built Facebook, the founders of Google, they all failed in the beginning of their journey. Bill Gates failed multiple times when he was beginning Microsoft. But you know what? No one now talks about his failures, because his failures is what helped him become one of the richest people in the world. You even think about Michael Jordan. Early on in Michael Jordan's career, he was not the superstar. He was not sought after, but you know what he did? He hired him a coach that helped him train on his strength. I was listening to his story. I mean, if we do a Michael Jordan LeBron debate, I'm sorry, I'm a LeBron fan. I mean, even though I grew up with Jordan, I did. I grew up with the Bills. I'm that age, but they're both goats in their own time. Period. So we'll do that.
Right.
But I lean towards LeBron. But anyway, I'm gonna come back but I was reading how Michael Jordan realized, hey, if I'm going to be the greatest, I got some improvements I need to make. So he hired someone who helped him learn how to shoot. And during the off season, he was shooting, he was lifting weights, he was getting stronger. And I think we have to help students recognize that resilience, number one, takes practice and process. And you can't be the best just coming straight out the gate. And when you understand your deficiencies, but you make the commitment to work on them, see, that's when you can become resilient.
Yes.
Yeah, you can't just become resilient by doing nothing.
Absolutely.
So
what you do in private ultimately lead to greatness if you're doing it right. Oh man. How much of student resilience come from adult modeling rather than programming?
kids see everything we do. So if we give up, they give up. Period. If you get frustrated, they get frustrated. As adults, we too have to understand that nothing comes easy. I'll just talk about myself being a business owner. So I've been in business for 10 years, and it has taken years of rejection, years of me failing, years of me spending money that led to no return on investment at all to get to the point now where I am. And it wasn't easy. There is a statistic that says that most new businesses fail after year 5. And it's probably because the first few years there is a bunch of failure. And you really have to talk yourself through the failure. Was it a failure or was it a lesson? Because once I failed once, I'm not doing that again. Okay, no, I'm not doing it twice. So do we consider it a failure or do we consider it a lesson? And I think it's how we frame it, not only for ourselves, but for our students. So if we can frame failures as lessons, then the success will follow. My youngest son is 23, and one day he asked me, he said, Mama, what do you consider success? And I told him, I said, being able to start over after every failure. So to me, that's what success is.
Absolutely.
Being able to fail and start over.
Yeah.
So
I love that. What's one small shift schools can make that will have a big impact on students' well-being?
I think building teachers' capacity in the areas of social emotional wellness and student engagement. People like to teach the way they are taught, and we get stuck in how we was taught years ago. We need to embrace the things that kids embrace, because we're actually training kids for jobs that don't exist. And if we're still teaching them in the same mindset, they won't be prepared. And so one of the shifts we can make is building the capacity of the people in front of them, which are the teachers, and not just instructionally, but also in the areas of social emotional wellness. Okay. So we can build that capacity. Number one, we have to trust students when they tell us how they need to learn a thing and allow them to learn the thing. Gone are the days of sit and get. Allow me to be creative. Listen, if a kid can get on the TikTok app, okay, and create a whole 90-second video with transitions, music, and outfit changes, they can tell you what they have learned in video. You can assess that way. right? In fact, it's a little bit harder to tell someone what they've learned in 90 seconds than it is with a text, because now I have to be very clear. I have to be very concise and make sure I explain to you those important points. So I feel like when we build the capacity, we trust that students can learn. We acknowledge that they learn differently, and we lean in to what engages them, we would have a totally different school environment.
Man, you are special. You know that, right? Doing the work. You're doing the work, and I definitely appreciate you for being who you are. What do kids need most from adults right now?
They need us to hear them. They need us to see them. But I also honestly think that our kids also crave and need the boundaries that we used to receive as when we were growing up. I think right now we put kids in adult type situations, and we don't allow them to the opportunity to truly just be kids and grow up. We grow them up extremely fast. And I think, our kids really need adults that take a truly vested interest in who they are, and allow them to feel safe being a kid. When I feel like I have to grow up, it's almost like kids feel like they have to grow up because they don't feel safe being a kid and the kid they are. And I think that's okay. I think we have taken away the safety of just being a kid. I'm going to use an example of little girls. So it used to be okay for little girls to have the bow reds and the knocker beads and all of that stuff. Well, now in the fourth grade, if you don't have a certain type of braids, you don't have these boho braids and these knotless, and you just come with the bow reds in your hair, oh, you childish. Well, you in the fourth grade, you should be. I should feel safe to not have to grow up and live towards everyone else's expectations. And I think that's what our kids need. Our kids need to feel safe. They need to feel seen, and they need to feel heard.
There you have it. You heard it best. And you know what I say, knowledge is power, but shared knowledge is more powerful. And perseverance is the key to overcoming all adversity. So never give up. No matter what life throws at you, keep your feet moving, focus on the solution, and let success be the goal. Thank you for your time, and I really appreciate this talk. I really love that. I might use that.
You can.
Okay.